Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. My name is Haley and I have mitochondrial disease and other chronic illnesses alongside it, and one of those happened to be POTS. And as you can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be sharing about my experience with POTS, what helps me, and how I was diagnosed, and also explaining what POTS is. So definitely stay tuned. Also, this is another video in the 12 days of Vlogmas, which I start on December 12th. So if you want to see more videos during this time or after this video, just hit that subscribe button down below. And I'm just gonna head straight into this video and share about POTS. So the most important question to start off with is, what is POTS? And I've had people be like, POTS? Like pots and pans? When I tell them I have POTS, but POTS is just an abbreviation, and it stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and that's definitely a mouthful to say, hence why there's an abbreviation. So I'm going to go ahead and explain POTS the best way I know how to explain it and how I understand it, is that in someone with POTS, when they get up into an upright position of any kind or bend over, their blood pressure lowers and heart rate rises. So their heart rate becomes tachycardic, meaning it is higher than the rhythm it should be. And your blood pressure being low, that's basically what orthostatic stands for, is low blood pressure. So in turn, there's a lot of side effects that occur and can occur from that happening. And because when someone with POTS gets up, their blood pressure goes down, heart rate goes down, their blood doesn't circulate very well to their heart, and that's what causes the issues. So it doesn't go to the heart, it doesn't go to the head. Instead, quite often in POTS patients, the blood goes down to the lower extremities, like the legs, which is not what you want. You want your blood to be flowing all over. So that is a major reason why people with POTS always feel better when lying down. So now I'm going to go into the symptoms, and I'm going to share a little bit of like my background with POTS for context, and then after the side effects I'll go more into how I was diagnosed, what kind of doctor I see, and what helps me with POTS. So looking back in my medical records, I at least started displaying symptoms of POTS in 2015 when I was 14. I wasn't diagnosed, I don't remember quite when I was diagnosed in 2016. It was within the first couple months of that year, I know that. And that's when I was diagnosed. In 2016, I had multiple things going on with my health, and basically everything that could go wrong with my body went completely wrong, and I almost died that year. So it's a very murky kind of memory surrounding 2016, so I do not remember distinctly when exactly I was diagnosed, how exactly I was. I do remember I was diagnosed by my pediatrician, and like I said, I'll get more into the diagnosis aspect after side effects, but some of these side effects I was 100% dealing with at the time. So that's, I don't know what I was about to say, but I'm going to get into the side effects. Alright, so I have my notes on my phone. So these are all the symptoms I experienced. Dizziness, lightheadedness, and I get this sensation where it feels like my head is floating, and I really can't explain adequately what that feels like. But it's literally like my head is floating apart from the rest of my body. It's a very weird feeling. And that always happens like when I need an increase in medication, when I'm dehydrated or sick or really like overheated. So I also obviously low blood pressure and tachycardia, like duh. I don't know why I put those on there. Almost blacking out and fainting. I have not, as far as I remember, I have not fainted from POTS, but I have been very, very close to fainting and blacking out. Also blurry vision. If I get up too fast, that's something I experience. Brain fog is another big one. Blood pooling is a big one, and I'll get into later what helps me with my blood pooling. And heat makes all my symptoms worse, and so does if I'm sick And as a female, I've noticed on my cycle, I am more symptomatic than the days I'm not on it. So those are some of the variables that can affect POTS symptoms. But yeah, so those are the symptoms I've experienced. I might have forgotten a few to add, but those are like the biggest ones I've dealt with. And so going into how I was tested and diagnosed and who diagnosed me, I mentioned that my pediatrician diagnosed me. She was the one who noticed I was tachycardic and my blood pressure was lower. Now, I've always had a chronically low blood pressure. It's not to the point where it's dangerous, but it's to the point where it's not normal. But it was going, if I remember correctly, it was going down lower. I can't remember for sure. And then she also took into account what my symptoms were. And the only symptom I remember clearly having is not being able to sit up very long, which is the symptom I get with POTS sometimes. But I don't remember what other symptoms I specifically dealt with at that time period because it's really hard to remember that time period. But if I gave it an educated guess, it would definitely be dizziness and lightheadedness as well. So it's really common for people who are diagnosed with POTS or tested for POTS to use the tilt table test. I'm not going to speak too much about that because that is not how I was diagnosed. So my cardiologist is the one who now oversees my POTS and my medication and that stuff. And I'm just going to share how she does it. I don't remember how my pediatrician did it almost 6 years ago. My cardiologist, what she'll have me do is she'll have me lay down on the exam table and then she'll have me sit up. Then she'll take my blood pressure, have me sit up for a specific amount of time, and then I'll stand up for a specific amount of time without holding on to anything, and she'll take my blood pressure and heart rate then, and then sometimes I'll lay back down or go from laying to standing. It really depends, but that I am pretty sure is how I was diagnosed because I know for sure I did not use the tilt table test. So yeah, I believe that's how I was diagnosed. Like I said, it's hard to remember, but I know for sure that is how my cardiologist evaluates me. And when I first saw her, that is the kind of test she did to confirm the diagnosis my pediatrician made, which was that I have POTS. So sorry if I made that confusing in the way I worded it, but that's how I was diagnosed. So yeah. But now moving on to what helps me. So before I get into what helps me, I want to be very clear. Everyone watching this who has POTS, who thinks they have POTS, everyone has their own individual journey and everyone has different things that will work for them. So what might work for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind, I am not a medical professional by any means. These are just things that have helped me throughout my journey with POTS over these last several years with it. So the biggest thing that helps me is mitogen, and I'm not going to say how much I take of it because again, it is so individual and it depends on your health history or whatever variables are at play. That's what determines your dosage and your doctor determines that. But I do take mitogen. It is something that has given me quality of life back. It's given me the ability to have my symptoms under a lot more control, so I'm able to go out and do things and not be bedridden. And in case anyone is curious, I have not had any true bad side effects. The only one I've had is sometimes after an increase in mitogen, I will have episodes of really bad anxiety afterwards, but then it kind of levels out. So that is the only symptom, and for me, the benefits far outweigh that. And it's something that's given me a lot of stability. Granted, it has not healed or cured my POTS, but it has helped me be able to have much more quality of life, and I'm very grateful for that. So alongside mitogen, another thing that helps me tremendously is getting IV fluid infusions. And for me, I get D5, and I forget how much saline is in there, but there's saline in there. That is something that has helped me so much. If you have POTS, it is incredibly important to stay hydrated. And I have a really hard time staying hydrated just for a couple of different reasons, and so that really helps me. It's also something I've noticed that when I'm doing weekly IV fluid infusions, it really helps my symptoms like not be as intense. And so if you're able to, it's definitely a good thing. But also if you're getting a central line for POTS infusions, if that's something that's on your mind or you're discussing it with your doctors, just be aware of all the risks of infection and everything with that. But if you decide to go forward with it, it is definitely something that can be beneficial. A lot of people with POTS infuse just straight saline. For me, I infuse C5 with saline, and that's just what works for me. Also, compression socks. Compression socks help me so much with my blood pooling. You know what, I'll just, like, if you're confused on what blood pooling is, I suggest you just search it on Google, because I probably have a picture somewhere, but I am not putting a picture of my feet or legs having like blood pooling. I'm not doing that in this video, but if you want to know what it looks like, you can Google it. It's not gross. It's just very clearly blood pooling in your lower extremities, and compression socks really help that, especially if you're going to be standing or walking or doing stuff. And there's a lot of cute compression socks on the market. It's something that really helps me throughout the entire year. Another thing is I am in a wheelchair when I'm out of the house. Now, there's another big component due to my mitochondrial disease that I'm in a wheelchair, but also being in a wheelchair when I'm out of my house walking long distances also helps me with my POTS symptoms. So some people with POTS are in wheelchairs, others aren't, and it's such an individual thing, but that's something that helps me. Also, laying down when needed. When I start feeling lightheaded or like my head is floating, that's when I usually will sit or lay down and make sure I'm all good. Also, taking breaks and listening to my body. So if I get lightheaded when I'm standing around, I'll sit down for a minute, and then if I get back up, it's still happening, then I'll just usually like stop whatever task I'm doing. Like if I'm cleaning something, for example, and I'll lay down for a little bit. Sometimes that's what helps. Sometimes it's just like that for the rest of the day for no specific reason. But listening to my body, which I don't always succeed in doing, because sometimes I do not realize my blood pressure and heart rate are so like out of whack until I like almost fall or almost black out. But for the most part, I'm pretty relatively good at listening to my body. But for the most part, listening to your body, incredibly important. Also, another thing is that I avoid caffeine. Now, I actually don't like anything that has caffeine in it, but I have definitely heard from doctors and from a lot of people in a support group I'm in that caffeine really exacerbates their POTS symptoms. So if that's something you're able to give up, I definitely recommend that. That definitely will probably help your heart rate. But I know it's not realistic for everyone to quit caffeine, but just throwing that out there, that's something that I do. And yeah, so that is the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I apologize if my words don't make sense in this video. I don't know what my problem is with speaking today, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learning a little bit about the context behind POTS and my story with POTS, side effects, and what can help you. Definitely feel free to comment down below any questions or really anything at all. If you need support, if you need advice, definitely let me know in the comment section, or you can private message me on Instagram at TheMitoWarrior. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video and listening to me ramble on and on about POTS, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye!